we are T-minus 48 hours away until the Kansas City Chiefs actually play a football game. Football season is upon us. And I'm going to give you my 5 players you should keep your eyes out for when the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Chicago Bears. But before we do dive into that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's talk about some of these players. And just like that, the NFL offseason has come and gone. Whether it felt long or short for you, I am grateful football season is finally upon us. We had preseason games underway today. It's that time. What a time. And today we're going to dive into my top 5 players you should watch out for when the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Chicago Bears. Now, let me give you a little bit of my mindset going into this. This won't be like, hey, let's watch out for Juju. Hey, let's watch out for Pacheco Mahomes. Because be realistic, they're not going to play too much in this game. Reed did come out and say they'll play a full quarter. But let's give or take. Like, let's say Kansas City's offense shows out right away and scores a touchdown on the first drive. I'm pretty sure that's their night. So what we're going to do here right now is we're going to basically put a player spotlight on 5 players who I think can contribute in this game, who have a lot to prove in this game, and who have huge potentials coming into this season. And at number 5, I'm going to look no further than the backup quarterback. The backups quarterback in Shane Buechele. I think this is his time. And actually last year I thought it was his time to be a backup quarterback. Maybe I was a little too rich on that, and maybe he does deserve to be a 3rd string behind Henne. But I think this preseason is his time to prove, hey, I deserve to be the number 2. And I think rightfully so. If he has a good preseason, I wouldn't be shocked if Kansas City feels comfortable to say, we can move on from Henne and put Buechele at that number 2 quarterback position. But also, too, I know Kansas City loves to run with that veteran leadership backup quarterback because, like, for instance, if Mahomes misses a game, 1 or 2, you could throw him in there right away and be, grateful and thankful that you have a veteran quarterback who can win you 1 game or both games while he's hurt. But with Buechele, if he proves he's ready to play and he proves he has grasped this playbook and he can fill in for a game or 2 if Mahomes happens to get hurt, knock on wood that he doesn't get hurt, I think that's the bigger asset because Buechele's more athletic than Chad Henne, and I think he's got a bigger upside than Chad Henne too. And also, if you focused on last year, people were wanting Buechele. Buechele was a hot commodity after the preseason. The Chiefs, at the end of the year, actually had to basically use their player protection against him because Arizona tried to sweep in and take him. So I think Buechele has a lot to prove, and also, too, if KC wants to move on or try to get him back on the practice squad, I think it's highly unlikely because teams are going to be calling for did I say Chad Buechele? I combined 2 names. Shane Buechele. They're going to be coming after him if he has a really hot preseason. So that's going to give a lot of take into what this quarterback room is going to pan out to, because everyone thinks just because it's Patrick Mahomes, there's no need to focus on this quarterback room. There is, because if anything happens to Mahomes, it's pretty slim pickings too. And would you want Chad Henne starting if something happens to Mahomes? Or we don't know what Shane Buechele will look like. So keep your eyes out for the quarterback positions throughout this preseason, and definitely against the Chicago Bears. At number 4, I'm looking no further than Cornell Powell. He has stringed together a few great practices, and actually today he had another great practice where he just seemed to be catching on and grasping this playbook and still getting reps with the ones too. He was basically our undercover wide receiver last year, to where he didn't play at all in the preseason, and we were all like shocked because we thought he was going to make the roster and he was going to be an impact and he was going to fill in for Sammy Watkins, and that just was not the case. Now he has the legit shot to fight for the wide receiver number 5 and wide receiver number 6 position. I expect this preseason to be massively different than last year. I think he's going to get a lot of reps. I think he's going to get a lot of playing time, and I think he's going to see the ball quite often. Now, whether he makes a play on it and whether he makes an impact, that's up to him. But I have a feeling, like I mentioned, those last 2 wide receiver spots are up for grabs. If something just tells me this year, Cornell Powell is going to make the active roster, and it's crazy what goes in a year, because last year we were all upset with it, and this year he might surprise us all and make the roster out of nowhere. We would think he'd be another practice squad commodity or just off the team. But with stringing an impressive week of practice, he looks very likely to be a wide receiver number 5 or wide receiver number 6 at worst. The 3rd player I'm going to be having my eyes on for against the Chicago Bears is Noah Gray. He's been stringing together a nice week of practice as well in the absence of Jody Fortson. Jody Fortson did come back today, so that was grateful to see because you guys know I'm a huge fan for Jody Fortson. But Noah Gray, not kind of the same route as Cornell Powell, but we had high expectations for him last year. Now, he did make the team, and he had a little bit of impact, but we expected more, especially out of a tight end number 2, and especially after Jody Fortson got hurt. We thought he would be a better gear commodity in the receiving game, and if not in the run blocking game, and it just didn't happen, and Kansas City's tend to lean with Blake Bell in both those positions. Noah Gray, we calling on you this year now. Definitely with not huge question marks, because I believe a lot of those are answered, but for the media and out there are question marks out there, and if you can make yourself a receiving threat on this team and show out in the preseason, that would be great to see. And also, too, a lot of people, including myself, have already booked Jody Fortson as the number 2 tight end. But with you showing out the last week at camp, you are also very likely to be a tight end number 2 as well. You can show the reason why you were drafted on this team. You can show the reason why people call you Baby Zeus, Baby Kelsey, because basically that's what it looks like, and that's what you look like at Duke too. And if you can show all that during the preseason, you might make yourself a great weapon in the regular season, and then it will be interesting to see moving forward how Kansas City runs with the Jody Fortson, with the Noah Gray, who is the tight end number 2. Is Blake Bell still on this team, which you would have to figure? Does Kansas City run with 4 tight ends? Again, this is another position with depth. It's going to be interesting when camp cutdown day comes, is how do they manage to keep all 4 tight ends, or how do they manage to keep the depth at every position? Noah Gray, the spotlight's on you. I believe you could ball out. You've been doing great in camp. Let's watch it against the Chicago Bears. At number 2, we got no other than Isaiah Pacheco, probably the craziest hype train we have seen for a 7th round pick in God knows when, but everybody seems all aboard. Chiefs Kingdom, Chiefs Nation, the whole media that covers the Chiefs, and even like the head coaching staff too. Andy Reid mentioned, Patrick Mahomes mentioned, this player's skill set matches everything that fits this offense perfectly. Now they want to see it live in game. Pacheco, you say you're trying to take a grown man's job. I mention it all the time because I love that line. I love that type of confidence you have. Let's show it in the game. Let's show why you deserve to be on this team, which I think you will. And I think during this preseason, you're not only going to show you deserve to be on this team, but you're going to show maybe you deserve to be a running back 1B with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And when we focus on my player number 1 coming up, it's going to be fun to see. I think he's not only going to be your running back 2, he's already been named the wide receiver, the kick returner number 1. He's basically proven, hey, he deserves a spot on this team. He deserves time to show, hey, I can be a huge asset on this team, a huge playmaker on this team. We're all excited to see him take off running, and I think a lot of people's players number 1 will be Isaiah Pacheco to watch against the Chicago Bears, but I'm going to have a different player spotlight coming up. At number 1, I got no other than Isaiah Pacheco's grown man's job he is trying to take in Ronald Jones. What a time it is. Like, really, when we signed Ronald Jones, Chiefs Kingdom, I got receipts, and I've been a huge CEH stan. You guys were saying Ronald Jones was not only going to be on this team, but he was going to be our RB1. And now look, it looks like he has a potential of being cut. He's taking basically 3rd string reps, 4th string reps. I want to see what Ronald Jones will do during this preseason and see if he literally fights for his job and proves his worth on this team. It's going to be interesting, just like the tight end position. We got 4 legit running backs in CEH. I'll go in order how I feel it will wrap up. CEH, Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon, and then Ronald Jones. And then you got Jerry Ely, who's going to be an interesting guy to watch. And whatever you claim him to be, a running back, a wide receiver, he's an offensive playmaker. It's someone you got to watch your eyes out for. But Ronald Jones, this is your time right now. You're literally on that line. You got to prove yourself in not playoff games, in preseason games, and show, hey, I deserve to be on this team. Hey, I'm more than just basically a straight line runner, because that's what a lot of people are calling him, and they feel like he doesn't have an asset in the receiving game compared to the other 3 guys, which may be very true. But this is your time to prove in the preseason, hey, I deserve to be on this team. Let me fight for my spot, and let's go running. But Chiefs Kingdom, I'm going to close this video out. I know I gave you 5 players to watch. I gave them on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe I stuck a little too strong with that. Let me know 5 players you got your eyes out for against the Chicago Bears. Throw some defensive guys at me. There are some out there. I'm interested to see this cornerback room. George Karlaftis go out there. You let me know some players we should be watching against the Chicago Bears. And with that, I'm going to close this video off. But before I do that, please do subscribe to the channel, like this video. Oh, and as well, I am on Twitter. Please do follow me because I will give you basically my mind and my thoughts of everything I feel on the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll be quoting a lot of highlights and giving you my personal opinions on the Chiefs. If you guys want to know any of that, go check it out. And with that, y'all take care. Peace.